there that this is a request, sorry, this is paragraph 5. This is a request to open inquiry for further investigations. Herein it is alleged that persons as mentioned in Annexure A committed the offense of dealing drugs heroin, also known as nyaupe. It goes on at paragraph 6 to say that there is a group of Tanzanian nationals who are currently residing in South Africa. They sell drugs, nyaupe, for personal gain and also own businesses around Gauteng, Free State, KwaZulu-Natal as a cover-up for their illegal dealings. I don't want to read the whole thing, but it also includes the people that they work with, including the fact that they rely on Uber drivers for transporting drugs. It also deals with how these drugs are brought into the country, and you will note that they come in, or the allegation was that they come in from Pakistan via Mozambique. They're transported into the country through different Southern African borders, in particular, mostly Manguzi, KZN, Komati-Poort, Mpumalanga, and Beitbridge in Limpopo. And then on the next page, it lists the targets. What you will note about this is, one, apart from the fact that the Ereton drugs were, and what is described in this inquiry is an investigation into drugs, the type of drugs are very different. Secondly, the modus operandi is very different. This is transported through the borders of other countries. The targets are also very different. And on my reading of at least this note that summarizes what was to be investigated, it doesn't seem similar to the case or inquiry that you are talking about. Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, the only comment I'll make, Commissioner, is that information was received from a source who confirmed the package to be related to what was investigated by our office. And they said by Mukwebo, it was made by Mukwebo, but the inquiry was open to be investigated and assigned to Masomo.
Related how? Related how? This is about Pakistan, this is about different drugs and so on. This, the source, Pakistan, and through Mozambique and the other places on the east coast of our country. We are talking about something that is alleged to have come from Brazil here, and totally different drugs. So how do you say this was related to what you had been investigating already? Can you explain that?
Commissioner, the fact that the information, what is alleged, happened to be similar to what was happening.
You said related. Don't keep changing. You said related. And I understood related to mean connected. Now you're shifting and saying similar. Please explain yourself.
I will say it's related by the fact that information received is similar to that one of Ereton, of 23 bags, Commission.
I don't want to be rude. I almost said so what. I will not say it. You see, the distinct impression that I get is that you wanted to use the inquiry you were already involved in as a foothold for you to go to Ereton, and getting to Ereton, then leapfrogging everyone else who was there to then say, because I already have an inquiry, I'm not even suggesting that would have entitled you to take charge of the crime scene. But for you to then say, because I already have an inquiry that is related to what is happening here, I should take charge of the crime scene. That is what you wanted to do. That's the distinct impression I have. And yet it's clear from the facts that what you were investigating already had nothing to do whatsoever with with the drug bust at Eratin. It had nothing to do whatsoever. You may have gotten information from the same source, but that doesn't make the two the same. Your comment?
No comment, Commissioner.
Do you accept what I say? Do you accept what I'm suggesting to you?
Pardon, Commissioner?
Do you accept what I am suggesting to you?
I hear that, Commissioner.
Do you accept it?
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Can I just raise another issue about this? You say to us in your statement that you left your office relying on Masoma, that this was the tip-off related to an open inquiry. But when you arrive at the scene in Erot, so you know what the inquiry is about, that Masoma falls under that inquiry number. Different drugs, as has been pointed out to you now. When you arrive at the scene and you find that it is in fact cocaine, surely you know it has nothing to do with this inquiry number, different drug altogether. You get information, it came off a ship in a container. You get all of those details. You can't reasonably at that point still have thought this has anything to do with the Masoma tip-off, or more directly has anything to do with your inquiry number. You now know it's a completely different drug than the one that is covered by that inquiry. Why do you at that point still take the posture that this is your inquiry, this is your scene? Because now you know it's a completely different drug, completely different mode of getting it into this country. It came from Brazil in a ship. It doesn't come from Mozambique and Pakistan. Why do you insist it's still yours at that point?
Commissioner, by then I didn't know how it came. That came about later on.
Well, you tell us in your statement that you were taken to Warrant Officer Pakula. So you arrive with Sergeant Pakula. You know there's DPCI, Germiston and Johannesburg who got there before you. You don't speak to them. You go to Pakula of the National Intervention Investigation Unit, in fact. You go to him, he briefs you about the scene. So at that point, unless you tell us that, well, you didn't ask for details, then you must explain what the briefing was about with Pakula. On the assumption that Pakula told you in that short briefing, this is what we are dealing with. We found, in fact, you do describe, you said bags of cocaine fell off and they put them in the van. So Pakula does tell you what they have happened upon. At that point, surely, you know different drug completely and therefore has nothing to do with your inquiry number. And the question is, with that kind of briefing, which has to be what he told you, we got a tip-off that there are drugs, cocaine coming up here. This is what we found. Pakula must have told you that when he gave you the first briefing. At that point, why do you still insist this is your scene? And this is the same inquiry number.
Commissioner, Pakula on the briefing, he briefed me about the driver and the fact that he's waiting for photographer And I also questioned why the bags were out of the truck. I'll say that was the beginning of the briefing. It's when it was interjected by seeing the general from CI coming.
Well, you also do say that you spoke to Mashaba. So I'm struggling to understand then what briefing did you get about these drugs? If you're speaking to Sergeant Pakula, you're speaking to Warrant Officer Pakula, you're speaking to Warrant Officer Mohane, you're speaking to Chief Mashaba, you're on the scene, you speak to all four of them. How in discussing with all of those four people, would you still suspect that this has anything to do with your inquiry? Then what exactly were you discussing with them? Must be the question then.
No, I was not, Commissioner, maybe I don't know the understanding. I didn't discuss with all four of them. As I arrived, I only spoke with Pakola, the warrant, and it's when the scene I withdrew after the general came in from intelligence. Speaking with Mashaba, it was after when intention to arrest them was brought. I only spoke with him then, not when I arrived, Commissioner.
You spoke to the driver and he told you that this come from port. The driver would have told you that because you tell us in 1331, I was briefed as follows, the driver was transporting the drugs. So at that point, you would have been informed that they were being transported from where? And the point, even on this limited issue, the point I'm raising with you is that, but at this point where you're told about the driver having driven to Egerton, you are given the story. He collected, he drove, he stopped at Yellow Jersey, and then he's here now. With all of that information, my question is, how do you still insist that this has anything to do with your inquiry number? Without even asking what's in there. If you didn't ask that question, then you would have been the most irrational police officer on the scene to say, these are my drugs, or they relate to my inquiry, when you haven't asked what's there, or where does this come from? Those kind of basic questions. And I at this stage at least, I'm not accepting that you did not ask those questions. That would have informed you that maybe this is not, in fact, my inquiry number and I should stay out of it. Do you want to comment?
No, Commissioner, no comment.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I just understand this? The statement that Advocate Bowe has referred you to on page 277, had you seen it before you went to Egerton? Had you seen the statement before the day?
It's a 2020 statement, Commissioner.
Yes, that's the one I'm asking you about. Had you seen it before you went to Egerton in July 2021?
Yes, Commissioner.
So you knew that it related to Nyaupe?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
One other observation, sorry, Ms. Bowe. One other observation, and it's a quick observation. This statement that you've been referred to of the statement that you've just been referred to now, it's accompanied by the contents of an investigation diary. And on a quick look of this from the beginning up to July 2021, there doesn't seem to be any reference whatsoever to Masoma. When one looks at the signatures, they seem to be signatures of people, none of whom appears, I'm not an expert in signatures, but I see Mokgotsi and all sorts of other names. None of them seems to be Masoma. And so when you say he was investigating in this inquiry, it was allocated to him because that's what you're saying. You say after the inquiry was opened by Mukwevo, then Masoma was appointed to conduct the investigation. Where do we see that in the investigation diary? On a quick look, I don't see him. And I must confess that I have had a quick look at this and I may have missed it. But even on that quick look, he doesn't seem to feature here, which would suggest he may well have. If that is so, then perhaps it's a misrepresentation to say this was allocated to him even to investigate and therefore justify his saying that the Egerton drugs, he believed that they belonged to this file. Witness I.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yes, you hear what I'm saying. I've had a quick look at the investigation diary. Masoma's name doesn't seem to appear anywhere, and yet you say to us he was appointed to investigate under this inquiry number. Maybe let me ask you a question. Is it wrong to expect that his name would feature in the investigation diary somewhere that shows that he's the investigating officer here?
I'm saying that, Commissioner.
I'm saying, we should be seeing it in the diary, right? I would see it in the diary that Masoma was the investigating officer. No? Witness I.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, let me say this to you. We have now had evidence about the Port Shepstone drug bust. We have seen the investigation diary. It contains the names of the people that were the investigators in that diary, and under that inquiry, from the beginning, from day one, we have names of who were the investigating diary, the investigating officers, even as it changed. Here, Masoma doesn't appear as the investigator, and I'm saying to you, then surely it cannot be that he's the investigator and his name doesn't appear in the diary, which suggests he was not the investigating officer in this diary. That's the suggestion I'm making to you, that the absence of his name anywhere in the many pages of the investigating of this diary suggests he was in fact not the appointed investigator. Isn't that a fair observation to make? Witness, I'm going to take it that you agree with me that it's a fair observation to make that if he were the investigator, his name would reflect in the diary. Instead, other people's names appear, not his. So I'm putting to you that in fact he misled you, or you are misleading us when you say he was appointed the investigator. Otherwise, we would see it in the diary. And your inability to answer or to comment on what I'm putting to you, I say to you, I'm going to accept it as you agreeing with me that it is misleading by him or you that he was the appointed investigator under this inquiry.
Commissioner, I would say by inquiry register, by the office, the appointed person was him. I was looking at the signatures here of the member who was signing here, and it seems like it looks like it's Mokwevo's signature, as is the person who's always with him. It looks like Masoma never made any entry. Though in the inquiry register by the office, he is the appointed inquiry investigator.